Good morning to you all.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning. Only 7 members have joined. Nana, close the door. Yes, I think we can start with our class. It's already 10. Okay, only 7 members have joined. Anyways, we don't have time. We will start because the live stream has been started already. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So yesterday we were talking about John Milton. Let's have a review about Milton and not Milton. Yesterday's class was about background, restoration period, right? Jacobean period. What has happened in the reign of James I. And now, today, we are dealing with Paradise Lost, John Milton's epic. So before going into details of epic, Paradise Lost, let us observe some of the characteristics of epic. So first of all, what is an epic? An epic is a lengthy narrative poem that typically details the extraordinary deeds and adventures of heroic figures or the history of a nation. Epics are characterized by their grandiose style and expansive scope, often encompassing themes of bravery, honor, and the struggle between good and evil. So sometimes the characters of an epic, epic is a form of poetry. So it is a long narrative poem. Majority of the themes were taken from oral literature. Say, for example, Beowulf, okay, and the voyages of the Greek heroes. And for our convenience, we can take the example of Indian epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata. You just imagine the setting of Mahabharata. You have so many characters, heroes, anti-heroes, and there are so many types of themes which are involved: moral conscience, diploma, politics, and so, there are so many. The wars includes so much of, so many plots and so many characters. They wages the war against another kingdom. Such type of themes you can see in epic. So, what are the characteristics of an epic? The first character is, it should be lengthy. Remember, epic should be lengthy. And heroic protagonist. The central character of an epic is usually a hero of great significance, often possessing superhuman abilities or qualities. This hero undertakes a significant journey or quest. So, the journey is important part of an epic. So, sometimes the hero is superhuman. He possesses some extraordinary qualities or abilities. Okay, sometimes some magical powers also. and they'll be fighting with the anti-heroes like devils and grotesque monsters. For example, in Beowulf, he'll be fighting with the grotesque monsters, devils, okay, like that. For example, in India, heroes are fighting with asuras, rakshasas, like that. So the main character is one of the main characteristics of an epic is it should contain heroic protagonist. The protagonist should be a hero in the sense having extraordinary qualities rather than an ordinary person. Vast setting. Second one, vast setting. The action in an epic typically spans across a wide geographical area, encompassing various realms, nations, or even the entire cosmos. So sometimes our heroes will be going to the other worlds also. Okay, so we have so many worlds like Nagaloka and Asuraloka, and we have so many worlds, either in the mythology of India, mythology of Britain, Egypt, all these. They have their own mythology. They in their own religion, or not maybe exactly religion, maybe in their culture, they have their own mythological characters of like heaven, hell, like that. So it should contain vast setting. So hero would be moving from one realm to another realm and one nation to another nation. Supernatural elements. Epics frequently include gods, monsters, and other supernatural forces. Formal and elevated language. Language should be very divine, very, it should contain some exaggerative and hyperbolic language. That means if you want to describe the beauty of the heroine, they will describe it in an exaggerative way, hyperbolic way. And if you want to highlight the qualities of hero, that is also extraordinary. So in the form of language, the language used in epics is often formal and grandiose. It is not a normal language, not regular day-to-day language. Length and complexity. Epics are long, intricate narratives and are divided into books or cantos. So epic is so many. You have, for example, in our epics, you have Aranyakanda, okay, and for example, take Ramayana. So first, the scene opens in Dashratha's court, and later Rama and Sita and Lakshmana, they'll leave to forest and again to another place. So this is how they will be traveling, and they have a long journey, which is very adventurous, and you have subplots and secondary characters like this. For example, plot and subplot. You have a Monkey King, where they have constructed a bridge to Sri Lanka. They have you there. You have a plot, and in Sri Lanka, King Ravana and his wife and his sister. There you have another subplot. So this is you have plots, you have subplots, you have commentaries, you have sub-commentaries, and you have secondary characters which are which will be helping to go through the story along the way. So it is lengthy and complexity. It is lengthy and complex. Invocation to the muse. It is the most important part to write a poem, to write an epic poem. Traditionally, epics begin with invoking a muse, asking for divine inspiration to tell the story. That means they are submitting their entire work to gods, and they'll be asking the help of God to lead the story. In medias res. In medias res, this means many epics start in medias res, or in the middle of the action, before eventually revealing preceding events through flashbacks or storytelling. That means when they start telling us a story, they start in the middle, I mean the opening scene, and that opening scene will obviously contain some past. It has some past, some preceding incidents which are taken place, and the action takes place in the middle. That technique is called in medias res. For example, in Paradise Lost, Milton starts his epic talking to the audience after invocation. He says the previous incident, that the first man's disobedience. He starts his epic with the line, the man's first disobedience, okay, caused paradise lost. That means some action has taken place in prior to that incident that God has created, and there was a war between Lucifer and God. This is how Milton is explaining. And every epic has its own beginning, its own roots, and they'll start an action and which precedes and which succeeds also. Catalogs and genealogies. Epics often include extensive lists of warriors, ships, armies, and genealogies to provide historical context and emphasize the epic's grand scale. So you have a very great character list, and they have a genealogy. They have very, their genealogy has a history, a lineage, a legacy. So these items are quite important. For example, take Mahabharata, and you take Kauravas and Pandavas. So their history, their ancestors, and their lineage. So all these things you understand. You have a great genealogies, catalogs, so many characters, and there is a history to their family lineage, and all these things you have to consider. So in a way, why we are reading this is, it is giving us information. It is giving us the information and knowledge about the history. So once you are reading and studying an epic, that means you are studying that particular place, culture, religion, and the people, their attitude, their lineage, and their families. What is that? You have that essence of that particular place of and time of that action has taken place. Epic similes and epithets. The use of elaborate similes, often called epic similes, and recurring descriptive phrases or epithets is a common stylistic feature in epics. So the use of elaborate similes, that means every line contains some symbols, similes. Sometimes they're specifically called epic similes. They're particular, they're peculiar, and they contain some profound meaning and some symbolism. So let us see some examples of epic poems. The Iliad, the Odyssey by Homer, Greek epics that recount the events of the Trojan War and the adventures of Odysseus. These are all classics, classic epics. The Aeneid by Virgil, Beowulf, this is entirely in English, an old English, truly in English, but inspiration and the style has been adopted from classic Roman and Greek epics. And the Divine Comedy by Dante and Paradise Lost by John Milton. So significance of epics. Epics have played a crucial role in shaping literature, preserving cultural histories, and providing insights into the values and benefits of the societies from which they originate. So as I already told you, what is the significance of epic? So an epic plays a crucial role in shaping the literature, provides information, and it preserves cultural histories. For example, Mahabharata. We did not see the person's action, where the action has taken place, how it was, what are the families, their lineages, their importance, the situations, conditions. We didn't know anything about it. It's all about history, or maybe sometimes an epic may be a fictitious one also. So, so we didn't know anything about it. But once you write an epic, once you read an epic, you'll come to know. You will face all these situations. You can see, you can understand, and you can understand the history of a nation. You can understand the culture, religion, beliefs, insights, values, and all that. From there originate about that particular people, culture, place. Epics are significant because they encapsulate the cultural essence of civilizations, influence literary traditions, educate and inspire readers, contribute to national identity, explore deep moral and philosophical issues, and often hold religious or spiritual importance. Their enduring legacy continues to resonate across generations, making them a vital part of the human literary and cultural heritage. So now we are reading Paradise Lost. So Paradise Lost should be understood with all these parameters. While you are reading Paradise Lost, first of all, it's lengthy. So many characters are there. Style is grandeur. Language is also grandeur. It has a very good language. Luxurious and profound words have been used. The style and all that. And you understand influence of literary traditions, national identity, why Milton has taken the decision to write a poem on paradise, and how it explores moral and philosophical issues, religious and spiritual importance. So here, don't take religion as personal. Any religion, any place, any religion. Religion is not, it is not that by a single God or any particular, identity. It is not. It is by faith. God can be anything. It is just by faith. You have to understand, God here is not a Christian God, Hindu God, or a Muslim God. It is not. God is good. It is a way. So, religion, any religion, it imparts the knowledge and wisdom of spiritual importance, so that it is the purpose of man's good. Once you cross that boundary, once you start moving away from religion, it is not good. So in this Paradise Lost, Milton is talking about how man is separated and what has happened. So Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost. Paradise is a place of God, abode of God. It is heaven in general terminology. So how it was lost? Paradise Lost is an epic poem by John Milton, first published in 1667. So remember, by this time, he already started his blindness. I mean, he became blind, not maybe completely, but later he became completely blind. So he hired scribes, and with the help of them, he wrote. He was able to complete this Paradise Lost. The poem is divided into 12 books. Book 1 serves as the introduction to the entire epic. Remember, a lengthy narrative poem epic should be divided into books, different books or cantons. So, Paradise Lost is divided into 12, and we are dealing book 1, which serves as an introduction to the entire epic. The poem tells the story of the fall of man, as described in the book of Genesis. Genesis is the first book of New Testament of the Bible. Sorry, Old Testament of the Bible. And explores complex themes such as the nature of good and evil, free will, and the consequences of disobedience. The poem begins with Satan and his followers being cast out of heaven, and their plot to corrupt God's newest creation, mankind. It is a deeply influential and thought-provoking work that continues to be studied and appreciated to this day. So, what happens behind the scene? Let us see, first of all, the characters. key characters. There are many characters. So, key characters, Satan, the main antagonist, formerly known as Lucifer, who leads the rebellion against God and is cast into hell. So, this Satan is also part of God's army. So, he is an angel, archangel in paradise. So, he was in a good position. Then what happened? He wanted to take the throne of God. He rebelled. He fought against God. And he lost the battle. And so as a result, he was thrown, cast into hell. He is depicted with heroic qualities, but is ultimately driven by pride and revenge. No doubt he is good in the sense he is mighty, he has strength, he has willpower, he contains so many heroic qualities. But the main problem here is he is driven by pride and revenge. Revenge is not good, pride is not good. Beelzebub, Satan's second in command, who supports Satan's plans and plays a key role in the fallen angels' council. And fallen angels, devils. The other angels who joined Satan in his rebellion and were consequently cast out of heaven. They become Satan's followers in hell. So, summary of book 1. So, this is what we have to understand is, so now Satan waged a war against God. As a result, he lost the battle and he was thrown into the hell. It is described as a fiery lake of hell. And now they gathered themselves. It took a long time for Saturn to gather himself, his will, his power, and his hope.
Madam, excuse me. Madam? Excuse me.
Hello? Yes.
Madam, excuse me.
Yes, please tell me.
Actually, the Paradise Lost is written from the Bible, no? Genesis like that. Why is why the Bible itself given already? God has told me that Adam and Eve, how they fallen sin. Same thing he repeated. No, that's why he explained again for Paradise Lost. Why he explained John Milton again for same topic. That's what I am just now.
So actually, if you take Genesis, you read it and almost in two chapters, it is finished, right? The entire story.
Yes, that's all. Yeah.
But now what we have to understand is, what is the reason behind what made Adam and Eve to commit a sin against God? Is it a great sin or is it unforgivable? So why and what we have to understand. That's what his intention is. So he is saying here that the only single line, the initial line, the beginning line is man's first disobedience. That itself is a sin. That itself is considered as sin. When you go through the Bible, you just understand that they sinned against God. But if you read this epic, you will come to an understanding that free will, that means acting upon one's whims and fancies, is also sin. The sin itself, the pride, okay, the rebellion, the dejection, the disobedience. Adam and Eve disobeyed God's word, God's order even. What was the order? They are not supposed to eat they are not supposed to eat the fruit of that particular tree of knowledge. But they did it, right? So, others may think that, or someone may think that it is such a simple act, right? They ate just a fruit. That's it. They ate just a fruit. For that simple thing, Were they really, God really got angered and were they cast out of heaven? Why? I mean, Garden of Eden. Why? So there would be so many doubts and there would be so many implications and interpretations. So here, by writing John Milton, he wants to say that what was the background? Why Satan, in the form of snake, deceived Eve, and through Eve, he deceived Adam. So what is the significance of that? That we need to understand. Okay. So what is the significance of that? So he knows the prior plans. God loves humanity more than anything else in his creation. More than angels, archangels, okay. And you have cherubs and you have cherubs. So many characters in the supernatural characters in the Bible. I mean in the heaven, who lives along with the God. But God loves humans very much. So now Lucifer or Saturn, it decided that God made me, I mean, he overthrown me from his home. So now what I want to say, what I want to do, I want to separate humans from God so that I'll take revenge. That would be satisfying for me. So for that reason, he collected his strength, he collected his army, he gathered his armies, and he has built a pandemonium, I mean a temple of temples, okay, in the hell, and he started that war. Okay, so the spiritual meaning of sin, spiritual meaning of pride, and the spiritual meaning of disobedience are the themes that needs to be understood. And why he has written this? Because he wants to tell his people, means the society, where it is going, the ideology, okay, the scientific investigations, industrial revolution, and people started acting on their own. They're fighting in the name of religion. They're killing other peoples in the name of religion. Right?
Yes, even present generation, how Saturn is polluted.
Yes, it was there and it will be there always. Right?
And actually, I have given that, suppose if any story, even I can write from the book like Bible, I can write like same kind of stories. Can we make it possible? To write, suppose
you can write the gist, sir. It is not the entire story. Actually, you don't get such type of questions. You don't, you'll not be asked to write the summary of the Paradise Lost. Okay. So it will be Paradise Lost.
Yeah, generally I'm asking. I'm just asking generally. Suppose if I learn the story from the Bible or anything, can I describe like a story? I can make it like same kind of story, no?
Of course. But with some technical terminology. Okay?
Yeah, technical. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The fall of Saturn. The scene opens in hell immediately after Satan and his rebel angels have been defeated and cast out of heaven by God. The fallen angels lie stunned in a fiery lake. So they were casted out from the heaven, and now the open scene is the Satan and his followers. The term is called the fallen angels. All of them are in the fiery lake. Satan awakens and rouses his second in command, Beelzebub. They survey their dismal surroundings and lament their fall by resolve to continue their opposition to God. So now they seen their situations and they were dismayed. They felt very bad. Felt very disappointed, sad. And now they gathered their strength that we need to fight against God again. And the second scene is Satan's speech. So Satan delivers a rousing speech to his followers, urging them to rise from the lake of fire. He emphasizes their shared suffering, loss, and undying spirit of rebellion. His famous declaration captures his resolve, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. So initially they feel bad about their situations, condition, because they already, they lived in paradise. Now they were thrown away. They were casted out. So they are not happy with the situation of the fire lake. It is not soothing. It is not comfortable. It is not pleasing. But still, so Saturn says, better to reign in hell. That means under the supervision of God, they felt that they were slaves. So it is better to rule the heaven than being a servant in heaven. Okay, that is his idea, and he instills this idea into his fallen angels also, his rebellion also. So assembly of the fallen angels, next thing, the fallen angels assemble on a barren plain. Saturn addresses them, encouraging them to be strong and suggesting that they must find a way to continue their war against God despite their current state. Now, they can understand the situation, so they cannot go into paradise again, but still they have decided to continue the war with God. Pandemonium, this is another word for hell. Pandemonium literally means temple of gold. So they dig there and they collect gold and they melt it and they built a court, a parliament, the first parliament maybe. So where they sit in the chairs, they discuss, they plot against God, and now they decided to take the wage. They wage the war against God. What is the plan is it will be revealed in the later books. So what is the idea? They want to separate Adam and Eve from God. So key themes and imagery, heroism and ambition. Milton portrays Satan with a complex mixture of admiration and condemnation. Satan's defiance and ambition are heroic in scope, but they are also the root of his downfall and continued evil. You might get a question. Do you consider Satan is the hero of Epic Paradise Lost? So you have to answer. I have prepared that slide also. Let us go through that. So rebellion and free will. The theme of rebellion is central to book 1. What is the theme? Theme of rebellion. What is rebellion here? Satan's rebellion against God. Satan and his followers exercised their free will to rebel against God, and their punishment reflects the consequences of the choice. So you please go through the text in your text. It is a wonderful explanation is given there. You understand what is the background and how you have to read. But these are the themes. You have to keep it in your mind. It is not just a story. Go through that and remember the summary and write. It is not. You should be able to analyze the questions, themes, imagery, symbols. Then only you are a student of literature. So good versus evil. The stark contrast between the divine order of heaven and the chaotic, infernal nature of hell sets up the epic struggle between good and evil that will unfold throughout the poem. Throughout the poem, there is a fight against good and bad. Good, bad. And divine order of heaven, confusion, and chaotic and conflicts among the authority. Satan's role as a leader is highlighted. Despite his fall, he maintains authority and commands the respect of his followers. His ability to inspire and organize them underscores his charismatic and strategic qualities. You know, Satan says, don't dismay, don't feel bad, don't feel worried, because it is better to be act like a king than a servant, even though it is hell. We are rulers here. We are kings here. We are free. There is no domination, right? We are free to do anything. So free will, the theme there, the idea, the desire is free will, disobedience. They don't want to submit. They don't want to listen. They don't want to confine. So that is their problem, pride and all that. So leadership qualities of Saturn, so it encourages, it persuades its entire army. Okay, so it says, so let us wage the war against the God. We are not giving up. We continue this battle. That's how he encourages. So imagery and symbolism, light and darkness, the contrast between heaven and hell, good and evil. The imagery of light and darkness is prevalent, symbolizing fire and chaos. Hell is depicted as a place of fire and chaos, reflecting the inner turmoil and suffering of the fallen angels. So they are in confusion, they are in suffering, they are turmoiling, but still they are not ready to submit themselves to God. That means they are not ready to repent. They are not realizing, they are not acknowledging, they are not accepting their sins, and they are not ready to repent. Pandemonium. The construction of pandemonium represents the fallen angels' attempt to create order out of their chaotic existence and symbolizes their unyielding defiance. So pandemonium itself symbolizes that they are giving a physical form. They are attributing pandemonium that the place is important for them to continue their treachery, to continue their sin, to continue their chaotic existence. That means confusion. Okay. So unyielding defiance, unyield, unable to surrender, their negation. It symbolizes pandemonium. That itself is hell. Even for us also, even if we don't want to repent, we don't want to acknowledge our sins before God, that itself is the condition of pandemonium. That itself is a hell in our mind. So important quotations from Paradise Lost.
Ma'am, pandemonium and lake of fire is
Of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal state, this is a quotation, brought death into the world and all our woe. This is Milton's dialogue. He used this one in Milton's invocation, in the very introduction, invocation. So you can expect a question like this: better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Explain. Who is the speaker of this quotation or dialogue? Explain. Such type of quotations from the book can be asked on free will. What thought the field be lost? What though the field be lost? All is not lost. The unconquerable will. Even though we lose everything, we have one thing. What is that? Nobody can steal it us. What is that? Unconquerable will. That means the hope, the will, okay, you have. Nobody can steal it. As long as you have that hope, you have that will, we can win. That is the speech of Saturn. And study of revenge, immortal hate, and courage, never to submit or yield. Heaven from all creatures hides the book their present state. The mind is its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. So Saturn says this, it is all there in the mind. Okay. If you think it is a heaven, it is heaven. If you think this place is hell, it is hell. So everything is in the mind. That is his dialogue. Awake, arise, or be forever fallen. Okay. So it says, you just arise and awake, and then there is nothing to be falling again. So now, unique features. How Paradise Lost is different from other epics. This slide is important. This topic, Christian epic. What makes it is different is, first of all, it is Christian epic. While drawing on classical epics like those of Homer and Virgil, Milton infuses his work with Christian theology, transforming the genre to address spiritual and moral concerns. So it is the first of its kind. Okay, so he has taken that theme from Christian theology, unlike Greek and Roman epics. Complex characters. The characters in Paradise Lost are deeply particularly Saturn, whose blend of heroic qualities and tragic flaws challenges traditional notions of heroism. Right. So usually who is a hero? Almost in all epics, a hero is good. He faces problems, turmoils, and he faces a bad fate. So many situations that he had to come through, overcome. But here in Paradise Lost, the hero, the protagonist itself, bad. He made his own destiny. That's how the character is complex and it is different. Philosophical and theological depth. The poem delves into profound philosophical and theological questions, such as the nature of free will, the justice of God, and the problems of evil. So, in this poem, John Milton makes the reader to think, to realize, to retrospect the importance of spirituality, theological depth and philosophical. What is good? What is bad? What are we doing? What is exactly the sin according to God? Are we able to follow God's commandments? Are we able to practice the truth or his orders in our daily life? So such type of retrospection, idea, and that realization he wants to put in the minds of readers. Even today also, it is relevant to our situation. So influence and legacy. Paradise Lost has had a profound impact on English literature and beyond. It has influenced countless writers, poets, and artists, and remains a cornerstone of literary studies. Its exploration of universal themes, combined with its stylistic mastery, ensures its enduring relevance and significance. So its theme, disobedience towards God, the theme itself is universal. It doesn't fit to only one single religion. It can be applied to every human being, every culture, every tradition. What we are doing, where are we actually? And it offers a lot of scope for research also, even today also. In summary, Paradise Lost exemplifies and expands up to epic tradition. Its grand scope, supernatural elements, elevated style, and deep thematic concerns align it with the classical epics. At the same time, its Christian framework and complex character portrayals mark it as a distinctive and innovative work in the epic genre. Next one, Unit 9, Absalom and Achitophel. It is by John Dryden.
It's also from Bible.
Yes. But he did not write to exaggerate or elevate the biblical characters. He just wants to portray one meaning or one situation to the political. Actually, it is a political satire. The characters may represent biblical characters, but it is a political satire, completely political satire. So, John Dryden was a prominent English poet, playwright, and literary critic who became one of the most influential literary figures of the Restoration period. So, Restoration period, remember the restoration of Charles II. Early life and education. So, he was born in August 9, 1631 in Alwinsle, Northamptonshire, England. Education. Dryden attended Westminster School in London, where he received a classical education. He later studied at Trinity College, Cambridge, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1654. His literary career, early works. Dryden's early works include his first significant poem, Heroic Stanzas, written in honor of Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell's death. So now he has written for Oliver Cromwell's death. So what is Oliver Cromwell's rule? It is called interregnum, just the period before the restoration, that means before King Charles II. This work demonstrated his talent and earned him recognition, influence. With the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, Dryden shifted his political alliance and wrote Astrea Redux to celebrate King Charles II's return. This marked the beginning of his close association with the royal court. So, poetry and criticism. Dryden's major poetic works include Annus Mirabilis, commemorating the events of 1666, such as the Great Fire of London and the naval battles against the Dutch. He also wrote significant literary criticism with an essay of dramatic poesy, being one of his most notable contributions. So, his works are important because he recorded historical events. He wrote books on the real historical figures. For example, he wrote on the death of Oliver Cromwell and the situations, what were prevailed in the society, economical, political, social, religious, all types of situations they used to record. That's why literature is important. Literature is called, it's a mirror of life. It reflects the society, its conditions, its prevailing conditions, and the past, present, and future also. Playwriting. Dryden wrote numerous plays, excelling in both comedy and tragedy. Notable plays include The Indian Emperor, All for Love, and The Spanish Friar. His works often reflected the tastes of and politics of the Restoration court. Satirical works. Dryden was a master of satire, with works like Absalom and Achitophel, The Medal, targeting political figures and events. These satires were notable for their sharp wit and incisive commentary. Poet Laureate in 1668. Dryden was appointed Poet Laureate of England, a position he held until 1689. He produced several significant works, including odes and poems, celebrating the monarchy during his tenure. So he felt very happy because Charles II again restored as a monarch. So later, life and legacy, religious conversion, he converted into Catholicism, a decision that influenced his later works such as The Hind and the Panther, and an allegorical poem defending his new faith. So he converted from Protestantism to Catholicism. Political shifts, the Glorious Revolution of 1688, which replaced James II with William III and Mary II, resulted in Dryden losing his position as Poet Laureate due to his Catholicism and loyalty to James II. So after Charles II, James II became the ruler. And after the death of James II, William III and Mary II became the rulers. So they executed him. They evacuated him from his position as a Poet Laureate. Transitions and final works. He translated Virgil's Aeneid and Chaucer's Fables. He concentrated on translations. He translated these great books, great works from other languages to English. Death. In London, John Dryden died on May 12, 1700. He was buried in Westminster Abbey. So his legacy. John Dryden's influence on English literature is profound. He shaped the development of English poetry, drama, and criticism during the Restoration period. His works continue to be studied for their linguistic mastery, wit, and insight into the politics and culture of his time. So if you have to understand John Dryden's work, first of all, he's a satirist. His plays are filled with satires. That means he wants to portray the societal conditions in a positive way. Dryden is remembered as one of the greatest literary figures of the 17th century, earning him the title Father of English Criticism. Hope you remember this line. Who is father of literary English criticism? John Dryden, for his contributions to literary theory and criticism. So coming to our play, Absalom and Achitophel. So Absalom and Achitophel are biblical characters, but he compares biblical characters with the political figures, rulers of England. John Dryden's Absalom and Achitophel is a political allegory written in verse that uses the biblical story of Absalom's rebellion against King David to comment on contemporary English politics. David is the king of Israelites. Absalom is the illegitimate son of David. So this story is about father and son. So why he has taken the character Achitophel? Achitophel is a counselor friend of King David. So the biblical story is Absalom being the illegitimate son of David. David likes Absalom very much, but he rebelled against his father. King David has sons, legitimate sons. David has so many wives, concubines. Among all his children, David loved Absalom very much. He's quite aspirant, he's quite attractive, he's quite handsome. He possesses all the qualities. Absalom is described in the Bible as the most handsome person in his creation, in his God's creation. From head to toe, he has no blasphemy and no problem at all, defect at all. Such a handsome guy, handsome prince. So this Achitophel, a pretended good counselor of David, he counsels Absalom. He deceives Absalom. He persuades Absalom to rebel against his father. And initially, Absalom rejects, but later he accepts. So what is the thing is, Achitophel says Absalom that why you cannot be his heir, I mean the king of Israel. So according to their lineage and tradition, Absalom is a legitimate son and he cannot become the ruler. He can have kingdom. He can occupy another position, but not as a king. Initially, Absalom knows this thing, but later he is deceived and inspired with the conceit and diplomacy speeches of Achitophel, and he rebels against his father. And ultimately, Absalom dies. Knowing this fact, Achitophel realizes his plot has been failed. He goes back to his place and he commits suicide. That is the biblical story. And here let us see which character represents whom. So first of all, I said it is a political allegory. So what is an allegory? An allegory is a literary device in which characters, events, and settings symbolically represent abstract ideas and moral qualities. Allegories are often used to convey complex concepts in a more understandable and relatable manner. So what do you mean by, here you need to understand one thing. To explain a very difficult, complex issues, allegory makes it so simple. in a very relatable manner. That's why John Dryden has taken this allegory. This poem is a political allegory. What is a satire? Satire is a literary device that uses humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to criticize people, organization, or society. Whoever the other party is, if you want to write that they are not good, if you want to say that they are not good, so you use the writers used to take the form satire as their genre. Satire could be a poem, a poetry, sorry, both are same, a poem or a literary work. It could be any genre. Satire is, why this satire is used? It is a literary device that uses humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule. Remember, they are not directly pointing them. They use either forms in a funny way, in an ironical way, exaggerative way, or ridicule to create people, organizations, or society. It's often used to bring attention to social or political issues to prompt change or improvement. To instruct the society, they take the form satire. And John Dryden is a great satirist. What is an irony? Irony is a literary technique or event in which what happens is the opposite of what is expected. It's often used to create humor or to emphasize a point. Okay, so in a funny way, to create a humor or to emphasize a point, that the result is unexpected. What you would be expecting is different from what is happening. That is satire. See his the background, if you are able to see. This person wants a fruit. So he wants to cut the fruit. He cannot, the tree is too high for him. So he has cut the tree. Okay. And so the tree died. He use that wood to build a home. He built the construction and now he is praying for fruit. Once he broke and destroyed the tree, can he expect the fruit again? No. Isn't it? So this is the information. So here the artist used the pictorial representation, the graphical representation to say that the humankind is behaving like this. Okay? It is a satire. Key characters. King David represents King Charles II, the wise and rightful ruler facing rebellion. King David. Who is David in the poem? Charles II, the current ruler, present ruler of England. Absalom represents James Scott, Duke of Monmouth, the charming but misguided leader of the rebellion. So this Absalom is a son of King David. But here, Charles II, Absalom is the illegitimate son of King David. James Scott, Duke of Monmouth, is the illegitimate son of King Charles II. The charming but misguided leader, Achitophel, represents the Earl of Shaftesbury, the cunning instigator of the rebellion. Zadok and Abiathar represent the loyal supporters of David. I mean here, Charles II. This character list is given in your textbook also. Plot and summary. Introduction. The poem begins by establishing King David's representing King Charles, portrayed as a one.
We can't hear you, ma'am.
So, if you take a biblical character, David doesn't belong to royal family. David doesn't belong to royal family. David was a shepherd boy. So David became the ruler by killing a Philistine. He wins the war and he becomes a royal member. The first Israelite king is Saul, King Saul, and David is the second ruler. Now, in the sense, he is not the son of Saul. Israelites, some of the Israelites are favorable to David, but the original people of Israel didn't like the rule of David. So here, when coming to King Charles II, Charles II is a king of Charles I. Charles I has been executed, if you remember, right? Charles II went to exile in France. He was raised there. He lived there. And after that period, interim period is over, Oliver Cromwell's period is over, King Charles was restored again. So he was not the king of England according to its original aboriginal, native people's view. So that's why they want to kill Charles II also. Absalom's background. Absalom, representing James Scott, Duke of Monmouth, David's illegitimate but beloved son, is introduced. He is handsome, charismatic, and popular among the people. So, Charles II's son, he is James Scott, illegitimate son, but very talented. He won many battles for Charles II, and he gathered so many armies. He was a great military man. That personality was charismatic, heroic, and wherever he goes, people used to love him. Absalom's charm and popularity make him a potential figurehead for those discontented with David's rule. Now they want to make use of his son's disapproval in order to dethrone Charles II. Achitophel's plot. Achitophel, representing the Earl of Shaftesbury, is a cunning and manipulative politician who seeks to exploit Absalom's popularity to further his own ends. So he misguides, he deceives Absalom. Achitophel approaches Absalom and persuades him to lead a rebellion against King David, means against his own father. He argues that David's rule is oppressive and that Absalom has the right and the duty to seize the throne. He says, people are dissatisfied, people are discontented with your father's rule. Anyways, your father also doesn't belong to royal family, but he became the king. So you also can become the king. You also can become the king. Absalom's reluctance. Initially, Absalom is reluctant to betray his father. He respects David and is unsure about the legitimacy and morality of such an action. But later, he wages a war against his father. The rebellion. Absalom gathers support from various factions. Faction means the group of people who are rebellious against King David or king. Within the kingdom, the poem describes the various supporters of the rebellion, each with their own motivations and grievances. So what is David's response? King David becomes aware of the rebellion. Despite his sorrow over Absalom's betrayal, he prepares to defend his throne. So he also prepares his army. David's supporters are loyal and capable, and they work to quell the uprising. Resolution. The rebellion ultimately fails. Absalom's forces are defeated and he is killed, bringing the conflict to a tragic end. Achitophel, seeing the failure of his plans, commits suicide. So David feels very bad about it because he loves, Absalom is a favorite son and he rebelled against his father and he was killed by the army. Themes and literary devices. Political allegory. Just now what we have gone through, that is political allegory. Biblical allusion. So why he had written this political allegory? The poem is an allegory situation in England at the time, specifically the exclusion crisis. What is this exclusion crisis? The trial made to exclude Charles II. When an attempt was made to exclude Charles II's brother, James, a Catholic, from the line of succession. Biblical allusion. Dryden draws parallels between biblical events and using the story of Absalom's rebellion, making his critic more resonant and layered. So here, why they want to execute Charles II and exclude James? Because James is a Catholic. James II is a Catholic. James II is a brother of Charles II. Charles II has no heirs, no legal heirs. He has so many sons and daughters, but none of them are legitimate. That's why they are not eligible to have the throne. Obviously, who is next to Charles II in the line of succession is James. But James is a Catholic. That's why England people, they didn't want James II as their ruler after Charles II. That's why they supported his son, Charles II's illegitimate son, Duke of Monmouth. Biblical allusion is over. Satire. Dryden uses satire to criticize political figures and factions, negatively portraying their actions and motivations. Rhetoric and persuasion. Achitophel's speeches are master classes in manipulation and rhetoric, showing how language can be used to sway people to a cause. This rhetoric is to inspire people, to gather people, to motivate, to persuade, to do one particular act. So, what is the conclusion? Absalom and Achitophel is a masterful blend of political commentary, biblical allegory, and satirical critique. You remember the words? It's a political commentary. Maybe a question like this. Biblical allegory and satirical critique. Dryden's use of classical poetic forms and his sharp wit make the poem a powerful statement on the politics of his time. At the same time, its themes of loyalty, ambition, and manipulation remain relevant. The poem offers insight into the historical context of 17th century England. Biblical characters, King David. His role is, David is one of the most important figures in the Hebrew Bible. He is the second king of Israel and Judah, succeeding Saul, Saul being the first ruler, first king. He is known for his military prowess. He is a very great military man. Poetic skills, traditionally attributed as the author of many psalms. He is the writer of psalms in the Bible and a deep faith in God. So David is described as a man heart in 1 Samuel chapter 13 verses 14. He unites the tribes of Israel, establishes Jerusalem as the capital, and brings the Ark of the Covenant to the city, centralizing worship there. So this Ark of the Covenant is Israelites' holy box, which they will carry that to tabernacle whenever they move. Tabernacle is a place of worship to their God. Absalom. Absalom is one of David's sons, known for his handsome appearance and his ambition. He becomes a central figure in one of the most significant rebellions against David, driven by a combination of personal grievances and political ambition. Achitophel. Achitophel is a counselor to King David, renowned for his wisdom and shrewd advice. His name means brother of folly or brother of ruin, which becomes prophetic in the narrative. His name itself is a deceiver. So he deceives, obviously. His betrayal and subsequent fate, tragedy, and illustrate the theme of loyalty versus betrayal. Loyalty versus betrayal, the theme the character represents. So King David is represented as Charles II. Absalom is Duke of Monmouth, His name is James Scott, illegitimate son of Charles II. Achitophel, Earl of Shaftesbury, Anthony Ashley Cooper. So this Achitophel in the play is Anthony Ashley Cooper, the real character. James II is brother of Charles II, who is next in the line of succession. Charles II is a Protestant, James II is a Catholic. Themes and symbolism, loyalty and betrayal, legitimacy and ambition, political allegory. So legitimacy, Absalom is not a legitimate son, but he has ambition. Loyalty and betrayal. You can expand the characters of David's followers are loyal. Absalom's followers are betrayal. Finally, the betrayal leads the disaster. So it's a political allegory. So in Absalom and Achitophel, Dryden skillfully uses the biblical story to comment on the political landscape of 17th century England. The characters serve as allegorical representations of real political figures, allowing Dryden to critique and satirize the events and personalities of the exclusion crisis. Through, the exclusion crisis, they did not want James II as their king. Why? James II is a Catholic. Through these comparisons, Dryden underscores them of loyalty, ambition, and the rightful exercise power. So, the last unit of the block, The Way of the World. It is by William Congreve. It's a play, means it's a drama. So, William Congreve was an English playwright and a poet also of the Restoration satirical comedies. So, he was born in 1670 at Worcester, Yorkshire. Congreve attended Trinity College. Most of the writers attended Trinity College and University of Cambridge. Later studied law in London. However, his passion for literature led him to pursue a career in writing. Basically, he was a lawyer, but he became a writer. Congreve's first play, The Old Bachelor and The Double Dealer, Love for Love, The Way of the World. His plays are celebrated for their witty dialogue, complex characters, and the portrayal of the manners and affectations of contemporary society. William Congreve became very popular, very renowned due to his style, because he wants to portray the real characters of the society, particularly the creamy layer of 17th century English people. Congreve wrote poetry and a novel, Incognita. He was also involved in literary circles and had friendships with other notable writers of the time, including Jonathan Swift and Alexander Pope. Congreve's health declined later and passed away on January 19, 1729. His works remain influential in the canon of English literature. So here, to understand our present play, Way of the World, let us go to Restoration of Charles II. What made, drama? At this particular period of time, drama was developed with a new twist, with a new taste. Charles II ascended to the throne in 6. Following the restoration of the monarchy, this event marked the end of the interregnum and the return of the Stuart dynasty to power. Charles II, also known as Charles Stuart, was King of England, Scotland, and Ireland from 1660 until his death in 1685. He is often called Merry Monarch. He is often called as, excuse me, J. Babu, please unmute your mic. Who is this J. Babu?
Madam.
Unmute, please.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
He is often called Merry Monarch. Charles II is known for his luxurious style. He maintained mistresses. He maintained concubines. He had so many children, but none of them are legitimate. He established coffee houses. He brought the culture of France to England. You know, France, Paris being the seat of fashion. So moral values are lessened, destroyed, traditions have been changed, culture has been changed, and there is a surge of enjoyment, entertainment with a new twist that even marriage and relations have lost their purity and sacredness. So here, he was a very good patron of players and playhouses. So he established two playhouses, the King Players and the Duke of York's Company of Play. Both of the playhouses, that means the drama houses, belongs to Charles II only. So why he established again? During the era of Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe, there were so many playhouses, theaters, but they were destroyed in the period of Cromwell. Why? Puritans. Earlier it was Catholicism, but now under the Cromwell, it was completely dictator. He acted as a dictator. So all the playhouses have been closed, destroyed. Now, again, the restoration of Charles II. Even though he is not a Puritan, even though he did not support any of the Puritans or Catholics directly, he established arts and culture, rejecting the idea of the Puritanism. The main purpose and idea of Puritanism is all the literature should belong to religion only, should be restricted to religion only. But here, Charles II acted differently. He was deeply influenced by French manners and literary traditions, which are very lavish, luxurious, having extramarital affairs and youth particularly going here and there, maintaining coffee culture, chocolate houses. They used to meet, they used to dance, they used to gossip. This type of culture has been encouraged. Drama during the Restoration period took two forms, the heroic tragedy and the comedy of manners. This house writers, they wanted to give advice to the society through tragic dramas. And the comedy of manners, they want to employ this in order to instruct and to show their flaws, mistakes in these plays, through these plays. Restoration comedy or the comedy of manners became very popular. Restoration comedy refers to a style of English drama that flourished during the Restoration period. So they are known for their wit and satire. Key characteristics are satirical nature, wit and wordplay. So they use very good language. Stock characters, that means stereotype characters. Almost all the characters. So they fell into recognizable types such as witty and rakish gentlemen. Men are quite witty. They praise the beauty of women and they act as a, they use they used to flatter the beauty and the good qualities of women. And women try most beautiful, they decorate themselves even though they are not beautiful. They act as they are innocent and they are chaste even though they are not chaste. So some married people, women, and both husbands and wives, they are not true to each other. They maintain separate other illegal extramarital affairs. That is the trend. And sexual themes, that is the relation out of marriage, extramarital affairs. Structural elements. The plays typically followed a 5-act structure and employed conventions. So characters often speak directly to the audience. Influence of commedia dell'arte. Restoration comedy drew influence from Italian commedia dell'arte. This is a technique. Incorporating elements like mistaken identities, disguises, and partial situations. Most of the characters disguise themselves so that they want to hide their identity. Character list of Way of the World. There are so many characters. You remember 4 or 5 characters so that the entire play goes there. Mirabel, he is the protagonist who falls in love with Millamant. So this Millamant, she has a very good fortune from her parents. So she has some assets, properties. Lady Wishfort, Millamant's wealthy, vain, and overbearing aunt, who controls Millamant's inheritance and despises Mirabel. So Millamant's property, half of the property comes to Millamant, and the rest of the property will be Millamant's pursual, control once she got married. And that marriage should be approved for Lady Wishfort. That is the will. So Millamant has to listen to her aunt. These two characters, they both are in love, but they did not express their love towards each other until the drama ends. So Mirabel maintains so many extra marital affairs, but loves Millamant. So what is the final thing is the marriage. Lady Wishfort accepts to the marriage proposal of Mirabel and gives Millamant's hand to Mirabel. That is the story. And final, a deceitful and manipulative man married to Lady Wishfort's daughter. He is the son-in-law of Lady Wishfort. Characters: Mrs. Marwood, foible, Waitwell, Sir Wilful, Witwoud, petulant. This Witwoud and petulant are the suitors of the protagonist. So here is a brief summary. The Way of the World is a classic restoration comedy by William Congreve that revolves around the romantic and financial machinations of the English upper class. The main plot centers on the love between Mirabel and Millamant, who wish to marry. However, Millamant stands to lose half of her fortune if she marries without the consent of her controlling aunt, Lady Wishfort, who despises Mirabel. So that is the reason she never agrees. And that is the reason Mirabel also wants to marry this heroine, Millamant. Mirabel loves, but not without her property. That is the crux and irony of the play. Lady Wishfort's approval. Mirabel deceives a complex scheme involving his servant, Waitwell, who is posing as a suitor for Lady Wishfort. So he plots against Lady Wishfort, and he sends his uncle as a suitor to Wishfort. Wishfort, old lady, 50 years old lady, but still she wants suitors, even though her daughter is married. So he takes that situation as an advantage. The play's climax reveals Fainall's blackmail plot, but Mirabel thwarts it with a pre-arranged deed that secures Mrs. Fainall's fortune and protects Lady Wishfort's wealth. So Mirabel comes to rescue Wishfort wealth. That's why she agrees for the marriage of these two. The Way of the World is renowned for its witty dialogue, intricate plot, and satirical examination of social manners and marriage. The play concludes with true love's triumph and the deceitful schemer's downfall. Way of the World as a comedy of manners. This is an important question. Already we have discussed. We just take a screenshot. Anyway, I'll be sending this PDF. Way of the World is a comedy of manners. What are the characteristics? It is a satirical portrait of social norms. So what are the social norms which were practiced, which are highly influenced by Charles' French tradition? And marriage is given importance only for societal purpose who are wealthy, rich. And the establishment of coffee houses and chocolate houses. So it's a deviation from the traditional old way and how people are reacting. There is no value for, the marriage. And sanity is not at all practiced. So all these things are satirically portrayed. So focus on marriage and relationships, how they are affecting political, economical, and social status also. That has been clearly explored in the play. Exploration of gender rules and power dynamics. So strong female characters. They used to control the houses because characters like Melamont and Mrs. Fainall exhibit agency and assertiveness because they used to have fortunes, that means assets, riches. They're quite healthy, wealthy. Critic of hypocrisy. The play exposes the hypocrisy of characters who outwardly conform to societal norms while privately engaging in immoral behavior. Outwardly, they'll be boasting their qualities, they maintain dignity, they act as a very decent characters, but inside, their private life is quite opposite to the outer world experience. Moral ambiguity and social commentary. So you may get a question as explain way of the world as a social commentary or a moral ambiguity. One, moral complexity, ambiguity, this or that, which is not clear. That is ambiguity. Moral complexity, unlike earlier, more straightforward moral plays. The way of the world presents characters with complex motivations and moral ambiguities. While Mirabel and Melamont are ultimately virtuous, they are not without flaws, making them more realistic and relatable. No doubt William Congreve's characters are more realistic. They are not idealistic. They are not idealistic. They are more reliable. They are not more relatable, realistic. That they have their own flaws, yet they are sincere in their relationship. Restoration of social order. Despite the moral ambiguities and social critics, the play concludes with restoring social order. The virtuous characters are rewarded and the schemes are exposed and defeated, reaffirming the values of honesty and integrity. So through this play, William Congreve wants to portray one thing, that even though you may have so many problems and you may have so many schemers in your life who are plotting against you, ultimately the triumph will be, the victory will be the true and the virtuous characters. That means your virtuality and your honesty will be awarded. It will be rewarded, definitely. And giving the, what do you say, punishment or a type of condition or I mean the flaw people, they have to pay the price. Exploration of gender roles and power dynamics. Strong, sorry, we're done with this, right? So the way of the world, Congreve masterfully uses the elements of comedy of manners to critique the upper class superficiality, duplicity, and moral ambiguity. The play's witty dialogue, intricate plotting, and focus on social mores and relationships make it a classic example of the genre, offering both entertainment and insightful social commentary. No doubt it is entertainment because you will be having fun and pleasure, and you will be resembling one audience will be reflecting themselves. They'll be comparing themselves with the characters secretly because nobody knows. The outer word appearance is different and the inward thoughts and inward private life is different. So they'll be connecting themselves with the characters who are on the stage. So through this, he's giving entertainment, he's giving fun and a message also. So it is an insightful social commentary. So with this, we can compare way of the world to present day also, that it is applicable to each and every time, each and every character. He is portraying the character. For example, Wishfort. Observe the name, Wishfort, Lady Wishfort. Wish, desires, fort, castle. What is fort? It's a palace. So her desires are like palace, means her desires are rich, powerful, okay? And it is too huge. At her age, She is waiting for a suitor. And at her age, she feels shy to talk to young men. So at some particular given point of time, Mr. Mirabel comes and he wants to talk to Wishfort because he wants to ask Melaman's hand in for marriage. But Wishfort mistakes that this guy, Mirabel, is trying to propose this Wishfort. So it arouses some fun, comedy, and some irony, humor. And still today, we can see some men and women, irrespective of their social status, age, marital status, they feel such type of things. And even the moral conscience of the people, particularly the upper class of people, the royal class people, it has been decreasing, deteriorating day by day. So William Congreve wants to warn, he wants to instruct the society. So with this play, we are end of our block 2. We ended the discussion about block 2. Okay? Any doubts? If you have doubts, please ask me. This window obviously closes on its own. Okay, I think time for next class. We will meet in the next week.
Thank you, madam.
Next okay.
Ma'am, can you please share PPT
Thank
with
you,
us?
madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure. I'll share it in.
Thank you, madam.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any WhatsApp group, ma'am?
Yeah, I'll share.
Can you please share that link? No, I am not joined in the WhatsApp group.
I am not the administrator of the group. I will ask somebody.
We are not there in that group. We are not getting any notes. How?
Yeah, wait a minute, please. Okay. I have shared that number in the chart. Is that okay?
I haven't received it, ma'am.
No, in the
Yes, ma'am.
chart. In the chart.
Yes, ma'am.
One of you, please share one of your numbers so that I will join if possible. I am not the administrator, group admin. One of you who is attending regularly, you just type your number in the chat. One of your number. Shweta. Are you attending regularly online classes? Yes, Shweta,
Yes.
please respond.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
You're attending regularly, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah, I just want one number so that you communicate with each other, okay? And you join. Okay, thank you. I will try to join you all. Okay. Okay then. Thank you. Have a nice day. We'll meet in the next class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.